Today's the first day of the impeachment trial, one of the most notorious figures in Texas politics, Republican State Attorney General Ken Paxton.
Mr. Paxton should be removed from office because he failed to protect the state and instead used the power of his elected office for his own benefit. And Mr. Paxton had an obligation not to abuse his office for his own benefit. He betrayed his constituents and the sacred public trust that's been given him. And in Texas, we require more from our public officials than to merely avoid being a criminal.
Paxton is facing 20 impeachment articles from the Republican State Senate, including corruption, misuse of public funds, and abuse of public trust. In many ways, Paxton is a Trump before Trump kind of figure. Back in 2015, he was even indicted on security fraud charges, although he denies them and has yet to go to trial. Yes, you heard that right. 8 years later, he hasn't faced trial. Back in October 2020, 8 former top officials in Paxton's own office accused him of bribery and abusing his power as AG. He settled a lawsuit for more than $3 million with those former employees, and then he tried to use state funds to pay it. Now, a lot of Paxton's record has been in the public record for years, but Republicans have stuck by him until now. And that is in large part because, like Trump, Paxton has a keen sense for where the party base is at politically. He sued the Obama and Biden administrations more than 24 times each. He also helped lead Trump's legal challenge to overturning the 2020 election. It's no surprise that the ex-president is publicly defending Paxton, writing on social media, quote, "Hopefully Republicans in the Texas House will agree this is a very unfair process that should not be allowed to happen or proceed. I will fight you if it does." But Texas Republicans don't appear to be afraid of that fight. I will fight you. At least for now, it seems as though they really have just had enough of this guy and his brazen antics, and they're ready to solve their Ken Paxton problem. Texas State Representative Jarvis Johnson is a Democrat representing Houston. He's a member of the Appropriations Committee, which Ken Paxton asked to cover his $3.3 million whistleblower settlement. And Representative, it's good to have you. First, just give me your read on the opening day of this, what this means for Texas politics, given that Paxton is an enormously powerful and influential figure, and that this is fundamentally a kind of Republican on Republican exercise. They have supermajorities in both houses. Paxton's a Republican. They've just decided enough.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is where we are, not only in this state, but in this country. I think when you see an elected official that continues to abuse their power, at some point or another, the body has to then take charge. And I'm so happy that the body has taken charge and decided to then indict Paxton to then go to trial for impeachment. And this was bipartisan support across the board. There are many that want to say that, oh, the Democrats created this and it's Democrats is Democrats. That's just talking points for some groups just to simply not pay attention to what is real. And that is politicians in this state are tired of elected officials taking full advantage of the office and abusing their power. What we see is Paxton abuse the power so that he can further gain himself and his family and for his friends. That's illegal. And so at that point, now we're going to trial. And at this point, we will see. I will say that when you just mentioned Donald Trump, that can be a very scary and very intimidating point that he is making. That if, in fact, that Paxton is indicted and is kicked out of office, that you have a former president that says there will be reciprocity, that there will be repercussions for their actions. That's very fearful. I'm very afraid of that type of mentality that can skew and slant a decision in favor of Paxton without taking into consideration all of the evidence that's out there. And by the way, we've been placed as elected officials, as state representatives and senators, to be placed under a gag order. It's kind of unusual and rich because at any given time, and the reason why we were placed under gag order is because we didn't want to unduly influence the body. And I will say that there's never in the last 10 years, I can't imagine any Democrat saying anything that would have skewed or changed the mind of any Republican when it comes to making a decision.
And they're like, well,
So-
if we lost Jarvis Johnson, then I mean, then we're totally screwed. Well,
Right. I mean, so, you know, that's the whole point. So I think it's disingenuous to place that type of gag order because as an elected official, my constituents want to hear me. They want to know my opinion. They want to know where I stand on this. But unfortunately, being placed on that gag order and then with the threat of being prosecuted kind of makes me step back. But I won't be silent and I won't not go before my constituents to let them know the truth and what is truly happening in the Senate hearing for impeachment of Paxton.
So my understanding is that the sort of predicate here is that he got this really sort of I thought very damning document by whistleblowers, people that worked for him. These weren't like the liberals are out to get Ken Paxton. People who worked for him. Citing different ways they felt he abused his office. He settled with them, and then he went to the Texas state coffers to say, pay me for this settlement. And my understanding is that the appropriation committee you sit on said, no, we won't, and then he just used the money anyway? Do I have that right?
Well, no, he tried. That was the whole point. He tried. One of the very questions that I asked of Paxton and his team while he was sitting during a hearing was, do you have money in your own campaign account to pay for this? Why should taxpayers pay for a mistake that you personally made, that you decided to make? And his comments were, well, I'm an elected official, and because of that, then the state would be responsible. And of course, he didn't want to further have any more dialogue about that. But the opportunity was there for Paxton to pay the money out of his own campaign. And I think because of the fact that he didn't pay it was the straw that broke the camel's back. I think for many of the Republicans that then decided to go for impeachment, movement. And there's money there.
Right.
We even
yeah,
a lot.
It doesn't seem outrageous to not give him the money from the state coffers to pay for his settlement with his whistleblower, Texas State Representative Jarvis Johnson, who sits on in the State Assembly on the Appropriations Committee. Thank you very much.